the legislature reflects the diversity of interests, as indeed they should in a state like this. The review of MTA capital plan, that was all legislation that I had something to do with, but if you think about it, I had gotten the right to borrow $14 billion from the legislature, including money that would come from state appropriations, and for them to have a right to make sure I didn't spend it on wrong things never struck me then or now as being inappropriate. I think what you need is you need everything that Ed described. You need people in politics who are willing to tell the truth and take the consequences. And that's harder to do when you don't have as vigilant a press as you used to have. And that has something to do with the nature of what's happened to print journalism, and something to do with the fact that state capitals function in cocoons, somewhat disconnected from the world of ideas, unlike our government in Washington and unlike the government of the city of New York. But I assume, I agree with Ed. I think that Andrew Cuomo has a terrific opportunity to do this. I think if he asked my advice, I'd say try to do what has to be done collegially with the legislature. You're never going to eliminate partisanship, and despite the effort to make the redrawing of districts more fair and more sensible, believe me, reapportionment is going to be very much on the agenda for the legislature, for the entire congressional delegation, and for everybody involved in politics, and it will color the events that happen. One of the things I proposed last year was that the fiscal year be extended instead of March 31st, June 30th. This is absolutely absurd to expect a newly elected governor in 30 days to have come to the conclusion of how to put together a budget as complex as the budget of the state of New York. And I keep saying, you got to give him a chance. I'm sure he's working very diligently to try to figure out what to do, and we'll find out on February 1st. And until that happens, and until we're able to evaluate what's proposed and see how the public dialogue develops, I don't think a structural reallocation of power between the governor and the legislature is appropriate.
Mayor, what about you? What do you think? How does Andrew Cuomo approach Shelley Silver and Dean Skelos and Johnson?
Very respectfully. I believe that you have to be respectful to those in positions of leadership who presented themselves to the voters and were reelected. But the key is never to make a statement that you're not prepared to be supportive of, no matter what the cost to you. I remember shortly after I was elected, Jack Beagle, who was the guru for all the municipal unions, said the unions would all like to meet me. None of them had supported me. I owed them nothing. And we met, and Jack Beagle, we had something, says, Mayor, we want you to know that we are your partners. And I got up and I said, you are not my partners. I was elected, not you. We will work together on issues where we have a commonality of interest, but we will be adversarial in other areas, particularly when it comes to what it is that you personally want. So they understood that I was prepared to take them on and also to be appropriately supportive. And I was of the opinion then and of the opinion now that what I had to do was to go over the heads of the legislative leaders and the union leaders and the special interest leaders and talk to the public. That was what I knew. I had to enlist them. I think Andrew is doing the same thing. He's formed committees that go across the board, and I think with that in mind, of enlisting the public. Now, I must say, I was disappointed in the public. The state of New York, I think, had the lowest turnout in terms of voting, and they didn't throw many of the bums out. A few, but not enough. So that was disappointing. But it was a start. They did throw, I think, 5 members of the House out. But not many in the legislature. And that's regrettable. But it's doable. It's doable if the citizens of the state of New York are called upon by the governor to be part of his army.
I have a question for the Lieutenant Governor. You mentioned that you only have a few days left in this post. You gave your farewell address recently. Looking back, do you think that did you accomplish what you wanted to? Did you pull off what you wanted to pull off? One. Did you think that the governor had your back the whole time you were there? There were reports that you thought you might have been shut out a few times. And did you think that you had the sort of runway to accomplish what you hope to do?
I mean, the simple, direct answer to that is that I believed that the stated reason that they'd asked me to fill the role of lieutenant governor was because everybody knew we faced fiscal problems, and I'd had considerable public experience addressing them. When I spent the first 6 months in office studying it and made a set of recommendations in March of this year, and they were rejected by the governor and by the Attorney General, I might add, and the Senate had difficulty focusing on anything. Actually, Shelley Silver was supportive of the concepts, and they would have passed it, and the recommendations sort of evanesced. I feel very badly that I really have accomplished very little. There were occasions in which I helped various commissioners solve problems or individual members of the legislature, but fundamentally, it was a terrific learning curve for me, but I can't pretend that I accomplished anything significant in these 18 months.